Hey everyone, this is Stephanie O'Brien, founder of Coach Client Connection. Today I'm here with a special guest, Leslie Urbas, who's going to share a piece of information that I found fascinating when she mentioned it. You know how you're lying in bed wishing so much you could go to sleep because you just know you need to focus the next day. You need to have enough energy to actually work on your coaching business and make good decisions and be able to work efficiently so you don't end up going overtime. But your brain's apparently decided that you're not going to sleep and it's going to make you suffer all the next day for its bad decisions. Drives me crazy. Probably drives you crazy too if it happens to you. So look, when Leslie said she actually knew about the off switch in the brain that I wish everybody just had built in and knew how to use, I was very intrigued and wanted to ask her about that and wanted to interview her about that just so she could share that information with you as well. So thank you very much for joining me, Leslie.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Yeah, I'd love to hear more about this sleep off switch. How do people activate this off switch so they can actually get the sleep they need?
Yeah, so I find that everybody is a little bit different for what their off switch is, but typically everybody has one. And our rhythm can be very different than others. So there's kind of four pieces that I want to talk about. So I'll talk about each one and then kind of pause for you to ask questions.
Sounds good.
So the first one is that some people know, like I'm gonna base it on the types of people that there are. Like the people that are like love to wake up early, love to like cut off like early, right? So you have those people that are like, I love to wake up early. This is me. This is why I start here. I love to wake up early. I love to cut off early. Okay. Now, if anyone is familiar with human design, I'm going to tie in a couple of little pieces here. My human design is a generator. Okay, generators typically have this go, 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 go response. Okay, so we will go and go until we're technically out of alignment with ourselves, and then we would feel potentially tired, right? So, what I have learned for my body is that I really do have an off switch around 6 or 7 p.m. that goes to, I don't want to cook anymore, which is funny because I'm doing this at 7 p.m. my time. Now, there are times that I can tap into this. So on today, like, okay, I'm going to gear into this. My brain can stay active for the next 2 hours. So if you are, I wake up early, I go to bed early type of person, but you have to do something later at night that's engaging when you would typically shut your brain off, you can literally turn it back on. When you turn it back on, you have to quote unquote turn it back off, right? So the technique that I typically use to turn it back off is go over my entire schedule for tomorrow and take all the things that my brain's thinking of, oh, I could do this and I could do this and I could do this and I could do this, and make sure that each one of them has a spot in my calendar. So my brain can go, okay, each one of those things is completed. I can't forget it. It's written down. When I don't do that, my brain will remain on and I will not go to sleep. I will think about like, I'll probably forget that, or I probably need to do this, or I probably need to do that, or oh, that thing is interfering with that thing. Hold on, let me check my phone real quick because it's probably interfering and I need to double check, right? And it'll keep going because I re-engaged it when I was turning it off. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Though I actually do something similar, like every task I assign myself, it goes in my calendar, or I probably forget it. But I also still have times when I can't go to sleep. It's like my brain has decided it's going to chew on some random thing. Either that, or sometimes I just plain lose the sleep function. Like it's almost like my brain just totally forgets how to sleep. So, do you know of an off switch for scenarios like that, where someone's already done that thing you just described, but their brain still won't shut up?
Yeah. So the next piece to that is okay, let's say that this is something there. I kind of call this person two, which is somebody that could maybe doesn't fall asleep when they hit the pillow. Okay. Scenario A is I like to wake up early, I go to bed early, pretty much hits the bed and goes to sleep, right? Very few times would they get this. Person B is similar, but there are times where the brain can keep going, right? So let's say I've already like put into compartments all of my little pieces of everything, right? Okay. I know everything's there, but now I'm stuck on, let's just say some random piece of information. You started with that one. Okay. And I'm really thinking about it. Maybe it's a subject from a book. Okay. Or maybe it's something that a client said and you're thinking, I could have said it better. I could have done it better. I could have done that thing better, whatever. This is where I go into the next scenario of talking to your brain from a new perspective. So why are we not going to sleep? Because we're staying on the same loop, right? We're staying on the same loop. But if you could interrupt the loop, you will get somewhere. Most people interrupt the loop with, I have to stop because I have to go to sleep. Okay? That's not interrupting the loop. right? That's keeping the loop on the loop, right? So if I'm continuously going in this cycle of all these things that I could have done better, or this thing that's keeping my thought going, or whatever it is, I have to actually kind of stop and go the polar opposite direction. Okay. So I typically find whatever seems to be the opposite of what I'm thinking to get to the other side, right? Okay. So if I'm worried about this client, and maybe I should have said something a different way, I will go the opposite direction and find three things in my brain that told me that I went the right direction today. Okay. So I'm going to switch gears to go to the other side. What I did was I changed the loop. Okay. I'm no longer engaging with the side that was keeping me asleep. I've now satisfied my brain, given myself three happy things to think about, and now my brain can turn off instead of keep me in that repetitive cycle of thought. Does that make sense?
Yeah, though, to give an example from my life, one much more ridiculous loop is sometimes I find myself mentally repeating tasks I've done through the day. Like I used to volunteer at Samaritan House, and sometimes I would find myself mentally sorting cans long after I was supposed to be asleep. And I not like every time I was almost asleep, I would forget how not to sort cans in my head, and then the sorting cans would keep me awake. Do you ever find you have clients who have that kind of issue where the brain just keeps on trying to do a task and won't, and it keeps on doing the task when you're too close to being asleep to consciously interrupt it?
Oh, totally. But mine, even with me, mine was when I used to pull weeds in my old house. I could like see the next weed and be like, oh, I got to pull that one too. And oh, I got to pull that one too. And oh, I got to put that one too. Because you can't just pull the weed from the top, right? Or it grows back. You have to
Yeah.
like dig under to get the white part. And it's like, oh my God, this just connects. And it's just this long line, right? And those nights it would be like, oh my gosh, I'm going to sleep thinking about weeds because it was wired into your mind subconsciously. And that's where your subconscious mind is. And you're transforming into your subconscious mind as you sleep.
Yeah. So how does one interrupt that cycle and make it actually complete the process of going to sleep if the act of almost going to sleep activates this loop?
Yeah. So what I do typically is to reactivate my subconscious mind in a different way. So this is a me task that I've seen clients respond really well to. If anybody's ever done hypnotherapy, it's kind of where it comes from. But in hypnotherapy, they typically teach you to roll your eyes to the top of your head. And I'm going to do this if you can see it, but I'm also going to talk about it. It's like you're trying to look into your eyebrows. Your eyes are going to feel strained. It feels difficult on your eyes. But what you are doing is you are inducing delta waves to your brain. So you are going to keep looking up at the top of your eyebrows and you're going to take 3 cleansing deep breaths. Okay. I think the majority of time it's 6 seconds or longer. You breathe in for 6 seconds, you exhale for 6 seconds, and you repeat it 3 times. The moment you do that, you induce a different brain wave in your head. You get a little bit further into the subconscious and you can induce yourself to your own hypnotic state. And that's when I would typically say, okay, brain, it's time to sleep. Okay. Many people will use this and then they'll do their own like visualizations and stuff like that. So if you are somebody who likes to visualize before you go to sleep and you've got your like, okay, I'm going to go through the motion, you do that. And then you put yourself in the trance of the visualization and you'll shut off the other process because we've switched gears or process boxes in your subconscious mind.
Yeah, I like that. Simple, actionable, and something you can do without dragging yourself out of bed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, what do you recommend for times when it's almost like the sleep function just plain disappears and your brain totally forgets how to sleep?
I really loved, have you ever read I think it was Rachel Hollis's like second book. It was like on business or something. I can't remember the name of it. But she actually talked about that in her book. When her brain just can't physically sleep, she honors that. And she determines that if my brain physically can't sleep, there must be something that has to come out of me. So she talks about it in the morning would be the most difficult time with her if she wakes up too early. That if she woke up too early from her clock going off, if it was less than 3 hours left and she was wide awake, she would just get up because there must be something that needs to come out of her. Now, that's for somebody that goes to bed early, wakes up early, right? For somebody who goes to bed late and wakes up late, you might feel that at the upper end. So if you go to lay down and there's nothing there, something might need to come out of you, right? Maybe it's something from the day. Maybe it's the next new idea. Maybe it's something like that. So most people, I suggest take yourself out of the space, go into your office or wherever it is you do your work, sit down and start free writing, okay? Journal, free writing, whatever it may be. As a coach taught me before, pen to paper for 15 minutes. You cannot pick up the pen off of your piece of paper. You have to just keep writing, even if it's just like, I'm only writing because I feel like I can't sleep, to see if anything needs to be regurgitated out. Sometimes it could be a stressor from the day, a past thing that occurred that got brought back up, could be something with a client, could be a brand new idea, could be just that your brain needs to word vomit. But most of the time, if you would do that and you induce yourself back into the state, you get to the point of like, oh, I actually am complete, and you will feel ready to go to bed. Now, if it's the opposite and you were to wake up in the morning, like I wake up at 3 a.m. and it's like, oh my gosh, I cannot fall back asleep. There's nothing left. Get yourself up. Do some of the morning tasks, right? So if you normally start at 7 and you're up at 3 and you feel like you can't go back to sleep, if you got up and did your morning tasks, then when you finally feel tired again because your body needs to and you lay back down, you'll be okay. Now, people are like, oh, broken sleep isn't good. Yes, I understand that. If this is an everyday occurrence, there's a different pattern for this. But for the 1 or 2 random times that this happens, it's not going to cause too much harm. There might physically be something, Bob Proctor, David Nagel, people like that, they talk about sometimes being awoken in the middle of the night with their next best idea, and they'll write it down. But sometimes they can't just go back to sleep. Sometimes they have to get it up, get it out, and then sleep later, right? So it's like adjusting your schedule to where you can. If you typically have, 2 hours to yourself in the morning for people that do morning routines and stuff, you will be able to kind of swap it to get to where you need to go or arrange things as needed that morning, right? Everybody knows, that one random thing happens like the snowstorms or whatever. So
In my case, my next best idea that wakes me up at night is more likely to be one of my cats. I must be petted, and this is the only time it can happen.
yeah.
These are some great strategies. Thank you very much for sharing them.
Yeah, of
I
course.
think you said, I think you said there were 4 different types of people, or 4 different approaches of trying to. Have we covered them, or are there others that you want to also cover?
So the only other one that I would say would be really good would be a change in your breathing and signaling to your body that you're okay. So a lot of times before bed, what I find is the main reason that people are not going to sleep is due to an anxiety state. There's some sort of anxiety that's left from the day. So there's really 3 different techniques that I use for people to help with the anxiety state. The first one is where you take you take a hand and you place on the opposite side of your head. So I have my right hand on my left side of the head, and I pull my ear close to my right shoulder, and I look up to the left corner of the room for basically 30 seconds. Okay, so I'm going to hold this position for 30 seconds, and then I'm going to just wobble my head out, and I'm going to change. I'm going to put my left hand on my right side of the head, pull it towards the left ear while looking into the top right corner of the room for 30 seconds, and then I'm going to release, okay? You will typically feel some sort of shift from there. If you don't still feel ready for bed, the next thing I typically have people do is look straight forward and then take their eyes only and look out the corner of their eyes as though they're looking at the left side of the room for 30 seconds. Then they're going to pause and they're going to look like they're looking out the right side of the room for 30 seconds and come back. Okay. The last thing that I typically have people do is using an anxiety technique where you put your thumb in your ear and you pull down on your ear for 5 seconds, and you repeat it with the opposite hand with the same hand. Okay, so my right hand goes into my right ear, pulling down for 5 seconds. Because what you're doing is you're shutting off your basically fight flight reflexes. And sometimes the reason why we can't go to sleep is because we've never actually calmed our nervous system down during the day. There's a lot of somatic teaching. I do a lot of somatic teaching in what I use as a dietitian, because you're not shutting off your brain. You're not actually doing it. Your brain is constantly looking for fear. And if you haven't really given yourself what it needs a day, haven't gone to the bathroom when you need to, eaten when you need to, taken breaks when you need to, you are in a fight, flight, or freeze state. And so it can be harder for you to lay down to go to sleep because you're asking the body to really calm down when you've never calmed it down in your whole day. So a lot of times that last practice is what people like the most, and sometimes what they refer to at first. But I find that I'd say 95% of my clients, if they start to calm their anxiety towards the end of the day, they're much easier to go to sleep and not have the other things come and hit them.
Yeah, that makes total sense. When your brain is saying, slow tigers are coming after me, the last thing it wants to do is lay down and let the tigers catch up.
Hmm. Exactly.
Thank you very much. I love how it's simple, quick, and actionable these tips are.
Yeah, agreed. That's what you want, right? Make it, everybody needs something that's going to help them, right? Like that is always the goal, is to make sure that people have the tools that will help them to live a better life, truthfully.
And I could see this also being useful for parents, if their kids are having a really hard time falling asleep, because these are instructions that kids could follow, kind of, gamify it.
Yeah, totally. I've taught my daughter multiple times about the visualizing. And every time she comes downstairs of like, Mommy, I just don't feel ready to go to sleep. I'm like, okay, what's on our vision board, because like we always work towards things. And we until she's accomplished that, we don't change the three things that she thinks about. And she gets really into it and all this stuff. And then as soon as she goes upstairs, and I think she starts putting herself in that visualization state, especially because she's young, she's only 6, so she lives more in that vibration versus the conscious mind. She's doing a good job, and then she just knocks herself right back out.
Great that she has this foundation to build on, thanks to you.
Yeah, thanks.
Welcome. So, any other tips you want to share regarding sleep or how to take care of your mind and body and your nervous system to support
Yeah,
that sleep?
I mean, I feel like I could talk forever on the subject, but I think the biggest key is really understanding your body from within. And the more we do this, like when we don't sleep, we're assuming our body is against us, right? We're like, oh, of course, my brain and my body don't want to go to sleep. Like, I know I need it, right? But if we actually like, I love how you brought my kid into this. Like if your kids can't sleep, I love how you brought them into this, because the thought process is that if your kid couldn't sleep, you wouldn't be like, well, don't come wake me about it. I want to sleep, right? You're going to be helpful to them. But when it's us, we immediately go to, of course you won't sleep because I've got a big day tomorrow, and because I've got all these things going, and because of all that. And we're literally raising our blood pressure, we're raising our heart rate, we're awakening ourselves, we're not putting ourselves to sleep. And so I think one of the biggest keys is that if you weren't able to go to sleep, or if you were having a stressful day, or if you were having those things, I typically teach all of my clients like putting their hands on their heart and just saying like, I'm here, body. I'm listening, body. What do you need from me, body? Can we let go of the day? And like really start asking these questions. Just doing this, like this action, or even like hugging yourself, which people think is sometimes really weird. It's so interesting, like when you do it, how calm you will get, because most of us were hugged before we went to bed when we were little kids. Most of us were nourished before we went to bed as little kids, right? We're blessed if we had those things, but right now it's like, okay, got the lunches made, did this, did this, did this, did this, watched 30 minutes of TV, kind of unwound, but didn't really unwound because I did this. And now I want my body to go to sleep. Okay. My body's like, but whoa, wait a minute. The last time you checked in with me was when you went to the bathroom 4 hours ago and then fed me 3 hours ago and then brushed my teeth, but didn't even really like check in with me? And I think that's really the key, is that we're literally only acknowledging a bodily function when we're hungry, need to go to the bathroom, or want to sleep in the majority of our day. The rest of it is like, okay, I got to work out, so I'm going to push through this workout. I got to do this, so I'm going to do this. But we're not actually checking in with our bodies. And if we were to do so, our bodies would give us great feedback that would allow us to sleep easier, to live easier, to have a healthier life. And all that's really important when you're, talking about somatic work, when you're talking about healthy body, when you're talking about healthy mind. And I know you work, life-changing coaching. This is part of that. You can do all of the things on the outside and check all the boxes like I did for many years. But if you're not checking the boxes on the inside and really finding out what's happening in there, that's where it's like, why is this still not working? And you feel like you're still climbing the mountain because it's just not landed yet.
Yeah. And it kind of reminds me of this story I'd read. It's been a while since I read it, so I might not be getting it quite right. But a group of women were asked to pin a brooch or a decoration on their clothes, and then they were asked to do it again, but this time as if it was a 6-year-old version of them, as if they were pinning it onto a 6-year-old girl. And they were really struck by how much more careful and tender they were when they approached this simple task as if they were doing it on a child, and you're realizing how rough and careless they got with themselves as opposed to how they treated a child.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of reminds me of that whole failing to check in with your body, failing to really acknowledge your own needs.
Right.
It's especially challenging for people with I forget if it was autism or ADHD or both that messes with the sense of interoception, the ability to sense what's going on inside your own body, stuff like hunger, etc. So I could
Yeah.
see that practice of checking in with your body being valuable there too. Because I've talked to some people with ADHD and just like they start to get hungry, could eat, not really famished yet, get involved in their task. It's okay. I focused on this. The future isn't real. Suddenly, oh crap, stomach bad. It's too late for me. -1 HP.
Yeah, exactly. You got it. You nailed it. Yeah,
Shoot, I had another question. It's kind of eluding me at the moment.
I get it.
Probably gonna think of it later on.
When
Oh,
you go to sleep. Nah, I'm playing. We're not going to put that in your mind. Then you're going to have it and be like, okay, Leslie told me to do this instead.
yeah. I do love one invention somebody came up with, a shower notepad. Like, I get so many great ideas in the shower. You got the shower notepad that you can like write on
Yeah,
in the shower.
exactly. That's a great one. Yeah.
Speaking of which, I wanted to ask that you're talking about writing things down and doing pen to paper. I imagine this is specifically like pen and paper as opposed to typing, right?
That allows you to remember it better. For me personally, if it's the middle of the night, I don't really like to turn on the flashlight kind of thing. I typically am the one that like whips out the phone and like texts it, you know?
Yeah, to be
So,
honest, I definitely prefer typing over handwriting just because handwriting is so slow by comparison.
yes, agreed. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, right. Now I remembered what I was thinking of. I just remember seeing one piece of advice that even if you're just laying in bed, you're still at least resting your body. You're just wasting the time. You're still getting some degree of rest. And I actually found that was really helpful just because it removes some of the frantic feeling of I have to fall asleep for this to count, and removes the concern and guilt around I'm here, but I'm not sleeping. Just knowing that even if I'm not sleeping, even just by laying there and resting, I'm at least doing some good. For me, at least, that really helped me calm down and be more likely to sleep.
Exactly. Yeah, you are doing something, you know. Potentially the body's not clear of something, so using the other techniques will help you to get clear of it. But yes, the rest is equally as important.
Well, thank you so much again for sharing all these really useful, quick, easy tips. Anything
Yeah.
else that you want to share before we finish up?
No, listen to your body.
And for everyone watching this, I hope you found it really helpful. If you want to connect with Leslie and learn more about how to create a approach to turning your brain off and getting to sleep that is a good fit for you. If you have any questions or any scenarios that weren't covered by the tips that were shared today, please connect with Leslie. I'm going to be including the links to her social media in with this video. Whether you're watching it on YouTube, it'll be in the description. If you're watching on my blog, it'll be in the blog post. Wherever you're watching this, look for the text that goes with the interview, and her contact info will be in there. So yeah, if you have any remaining questions, please reach out to her. Yeah, thanks again, Leslie. I hope you and everybody watching this has an amazing day.